Okay, so our first question, find the equation of the line, through these points, including the fully labeled fundamental triangle and everything else that you're supposed to include. Now, I'll go over it briefly. There's a 7-step procedure that I've used for my intermediate algebra class. Okay. And the 7 steps, I'll just put them up here soon. Make sure the 7 steps. Okay. Sketch the graph. Draw the horizontal and vertical lines for your points and label them, which many of you did, but many didn't. Okay. Sketch the line. Sketch the fundamental triangle. Label it as I've specified, and I'll emphasize that. And then now you have a point and slope, so plug into y equals mx plus b. Solve for b. Now you can write your equation. Now check. Okay. That's actually 8 steps, 7 steps, and then the check. Sometimes you don't need all those steps. For example, if you are given the y-intercept at a point, you already know what b is. Okay, and a lot of this gets to solving for b, which is in step 6. Okay. And if you're given the slope, you could just skip to step 6, write out your equation, and then check to make sure it works. Okay, so you don't need all the early steps, although you should make sketches, verify things there. Okay. Now slope -2 contains this point. Again, you can actually just skip step 6, because again, you have a point of a slope. So you plug in here and find b, and then knowing the slope and b, you can write your equation. Still want to see picture, but here's where you really need to. Okay. So here's where I really want to see the picture. And this will be in the test next week. There will be a test next week. I've sent you out practice problems. If you want more practice problems, I can send you a million. Yeah, actually I can't, because I can't attach it. But you understand what I mean. Okay. And you need to practice. Okay. People have been doing really well. Okay. And a little bit shaky on the straight lines. And there's a lot due to the disruption in the schedule last week. And it looked pretty good today. Okay. Not perfect, but pretty good. Now, I want to see all this. And see all these steps, all the labeling and everything, because that's how you reinforce the meaning of all the formulas. Okay. I also love to see the formulas. They do both. So that's what I'm going to do to demonstrate what I expect to see. Okay. So it's very simple. I don't even draw a set of coordinate axes. You don't need a set of coordinate axes to do this. X equals -4 here, X equals 10 here. I know I'm going to need the line X equals -4 and the line X equals 10, because the 2 points are both equal. The 2 points will lie on those 2 lines, right? Each point will lie on one of these lines. Now, y would be -6 here, -16 here. Well, -16 is lower than -6. So here's y equals -16. And up here, -6. Now that's the first and second step. Okay. It's kind of my graph. These are my horizontal and vertical lines. Label the points and sketch the line. Okay, now you want to label the points. I'm going to see that label, -4, -6. Label this. Okay. Let's put it down here, 10. -16. It turns out I want to use a dot for each of these points because now I need to draw some arrows. Okay. When I say sketch the fundamental triangle, I mean take the leftmost point, sketch a horizontal arrow until you're directly above the rightmost point. And then sketch an arrow so that you have a path that goes from here to here and down to here, one point to the other. If you draw this arrow up like this, then you go over here, but this arrow's up, so you can't follow it. It's gotta be down. Okay? So if you happen to draw the arrows from this point to this point, you could go up and back, but I'm saying just avoid confusion and not have to think much when you do this. Start at the leftmost point. Now, said that I've done it. Make sure you lock it in, okay? Okay. So we're already at, well, we're working on the fundamental triangle. Fundamental triangle has to be labeled. Meaning, I want all my information right there on the triangle so I know where to look for it. Now, and also work out all the equations, and it's a good thing to do both. Okay. Right now, I'm emphasizing the picture. So when you get on the test, you know, by all means, you got to do this, every detail. Okay. And I'll be very generous if you leave something off, depending on how major or minor it is. You can still get credit if you got most of it, but maybe half credit, maybe even a little less. I want to see the labeling. I want to see that you're thinking all these things and understanding the picture. Okay? So I want all the details to practice this. The run is what? Well, it's from here to here. So you subtract this from this. It's 10 minus -4 equals 14. Okay. Now, if you want to count, they both again, -5, -3, -2, -1, 0. That's out heading, and then 10, 1. Right. Now, if these numbers are really big and you try to count it, you're nuts. My number is 3,582, and the other number is 7,941. You're going to subtract, and it's fine to use a calculator to do that subtraction. If it's single-digit numbers, you probably shouldn't have to use a calculator. Okay, or even low double digits. Okay, numbers like those. Still, doesn't hurt to check. Okay, here I'm going to write rise equals where you end up minus where you start. -16 minus -4. Write it out like this. I saw at least one person who just did -16 and -4 and got -20. Okay. And that's really easy to do. That's why you've got to be very careful when you write out things that have negative signs, because that's the number one error that computer programmers make, that scientists make, and everybody who works with numbers makes. Okay. So don't think that you're above it. Nobody's above it, except me. Because I like to make mistakes so you can laugh at. Okay. Okay, so anyhow, that is, you know, right out the detail, -16 plus 4 to reinforce that you see the double negatives, it gives you -12. Okay. There are all your details. Now, if you got them step by step over here, fine, but they're easier to see if you have them here. You know exactly where to look. You don't have to say, oh, the second step, oh, there it is. No, there it is. There it is. That's right where you look. That's right where you want it. Okay? Much better organized, at least somewhat better organized than a column of calculations. Okay? Although column can be pretty well organized too. Okay, now you want the slope, and you're going to want the slope to end up in a box right here so you can immediately identify it when you have to do something else. So we do this, we say slope equals rise over run to remind yourself of what the slope is and remind yourself of the geometry of the situation. Even if you're sick of doing it, at least the first 20 problems you do like this, write that detail out. And then continue writing it out because it only takes a second or two to write it. Doesn't take you much and it keeps your attention where it needs to be. Okay, slope equals rise over run. Well, that's then negative 12 over 14. Then you kind of double check that before you commit yourself. Let's see. Negative 4, that's obviously 14. From 6 to 16 would be 10, but it's negative 6 to negative 6. And that's got to be negative 10. And, you know, I wrote what somebody else wrote that didn't do this. I wrote a negative 4 there, didn't I? Okay. So before I put my numbers in there forever, I say, oh, okay. I double checked that and found that that should be negative 10, not negative 12. And that's because I wrote a 4 there. So there's somebody I could blame for that because that was something that was paper. But I'm not going to blame it anybody. Okay. I wasn't looking careful. I really made that mistake. Okay. So it's a good thing I double checked. Think of what disaster could have fallen if I had not checked. Now that still doesn't, still not, oh wait, that's 10. See what I almost did? Okay. So now I am pretty sure I checked, I found a mistake. Let's just check it. Negative 4 to 10. Yeah, there's 4 and there's 10. And it's positive. Negative 6, negative 16. Well, 16 is 10 more than 6 and it's down. So you need a 10 there, negative 10 there and a 14 there. And of course, then I reduce that to negative 5, 6. Now I've got everything I need to write my equation. Okay, now if I'm following my steps, I've done step 5, labeled everything, and sketched the fundamental triangle. I've labeled it, and now I know a point and a slope. I have actually 2 points to choose from, right? We get y equals mx plus b. Oh, we have y equals mx plus b. That is the general form of the equation. Okay, y is negative 16. M is negative 5/7. And x is 10. B. We solve for b. First, we write down negative 16 with parentheses around it. And negative 5/7 times 10 plus b with parentheses around it. we put an equal sign here, and then we multiply this by 7, and multiply this by 7. Okay. Now, there are details. I'm not going to go through these details here. They were done in the MDE 61 class. If you're not sure how to multiply 7 by -7 and all that, look back there. I do it explicitly in a way that you should understand. Okay. So 7 times -16 is -112. 7 times -5/7 times 10, which is the first term in this sum. And then 7 times B, that's your distributive law. Actually safe, seeing that 7 divides 7 here, but there are ways to write this out to make it really clear. So again, look at the end of the problem I did in the MDE class where I was working one of these out. I think I might have already erased it when I showed. Okay, so anyhow, this gives us 50 here plus 7B. 3 dots, do the step where you subtract 50 from both sides or add -50, -50. Oh, what the hell? -50. That together, and we get -162 equals 7B. Okay. Now that disturbs me a little bit, because that's going to give me the y-intercept that's less than 20, so something is wrong. Anybody identify what's wrong here? Ah, there's no negative part of that 7. I see that part of the equal sign is a negative sign. This should have been -50. This is +50. Now you see, if I divide 7 into 140, I already get -20, right? Now the y-axis between -4 and 10, clearly this thing doesn't go through the y-axis at -20. Okay. So anyhow. And it's not -162 now, it's -70. So B equals -72 over 7, which is -10 2/7, which would be helpful if you try to locate this in the graph, right? That's your y-intercept. Okay, at this stage, we never had to put the x and the y-axes in there, okay? But at this stage, it would be useful to at least have the y-axis. So I'm going to draw a y-axis at x, that's at x equals 0. 0 is closer to -4 than it is to 10, so I'm just going to say. And the x-axis is at x equals 0. Now, if this is -16 and this is -6, our x-axis is way up here. And you can't always draw your x and y axes on the graph. If these points were 1004 -6 and 1010 -16, the x-axis would be outside somewhere. Okay. So you can't always draw an x-axis, but you can always draw these four lines, which is why I decided to do that. It shows you a window of the graph. Now, it happened that we can draw a y-axis here, and we can say that our y-intercept should be here at negative 10 and 2/7. So now I can draw this line y equals negative 10 and 2/7. Does it make sense? If this is negative 6 and this is negative 16, that this should be about negative 10? It's a little high. Probably didn't put my y-axis exactly in the right place. Okay. But it's reasonably plausible. So now I have a way, and you don't always have it. If these numbers are too big, you want to be able to see the y-intercept or the x-intercept. You can always work them out. Okay, so anyhow, there we have it. So we say that it looks about right. So we suspect we have the right equation. So we can use the slope, which is negative 5/7, and we can use our value of b. So y equals mx plus b. M equals negative 5/7. B equals negative 72/7. So we get y equals negative 5/7 x minus 72/7. And there's our equation. Now you can work it a lot faster than you can explain it. If you have this procedure down, you should be able to, you should be able to work this out in 5 minutes or less. Okay, there isn't that much to write, as long as the calculations are simple. You would have time to write it all out and quickly double check, make sure everything makes sense, and make sure you've got it right. Okay. Now, if you, for example, on a test, if you made the mistake I almost made, where this would have been, still. Well, if you ended up without it, if the numbers gave you a denominator here, and believe me, I'm gonna set it up so that. Okay. If you get a denominator here, then I'll be checking that step, okay? And if you make a mistake in your calculations, don't have a denominator, that step isn't going to be there, but you're still responsible for it. It probably cost you about 3 cents. Okay, not a disaster, but 3 points is 3 points. That's a third of a letter. Okay, makes sense? You don't want to mess with that. You want to get all these details. Now, we can also do this, of course, with symbols. Right, that's fine. You can say, okay, now you can have an x1 and a y1. Your m is your slope, so you're going to have that fundamental triangle, right? Now, you can get the slope without the fundamental triangle. M is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is negative 16 minus negative 6 over 10 minus negative 4, is it's exactly the same calculation you do here. Here's our 16 minus -6, that's our rise. Here's our 10 minus -4, that's our run. Now we do get -10 over 14, but we reduce that, so doing the calculations, they don't necessarily require that you have the intermediate step here where you have -10 over 14. You can do just a set of calculations, okay? Then just to show you it comes out the same no matter which point you use, I'm going to choose the point -4, -6. All you need is one point and a slope. You got 2 points, so you get the slope, but then you only need one of the points to the equation. So you get y minus -6 equals -5/7 times x minus get this. So, well, first do distributive law. Ooh, 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 ooh. You know, the last step here, there's an 8th step here where it says check 4 exclamation points. Mess something up. What do I mess up? Well, -12 and 50 isn't 72. -7 is -62. I have to change that. It's -62. And now it's not -10 something. It's -8 and 5/7. So this line that I drew here, I said was -10 and 2/7, should be -8, 5/7. I thought for -10 and 2/7, that line was a little bit high. Okay. I should have followed up with that. Because I was pretty sure I had the y-axis about right. And this is too close to -6. If the number is -8 and 6/7, not -8 and 5/7. Okay. Now, see, check it. By doing all this, I saw that when I put this over common denominator, that 6 is 42/7, and that going to be give me a -20 and -22, which is -62, not -72. Okay. Now, I might have had to carry out the next step. Subtract 6, we get y equals -5/7 x. Now, let's see, lay off the side, we better calculate -27 minus 6 equals -27 minus 42/7, which is -62/7, not -72/7. And now our equation agrees with our picture. Okay. Now, just to show you, you make a really stupid little error like that. and it's plausible in terms of your graph. I'll probably take one. Okay. If you did everything really, really perfectly, I might just put a little complaint in your paper and say, I'm still giving you full credit. You did really good job with that. Okay, usually I won't do that when first test. I'll be there. Okay, it's only point to point that make a difference. All right, talking about the test. Also, maybe the if video. You saw this, and you saw this. Now, this is kind of cut off. We used point negative 4, -6. Plugged into this form where we used this slope, and then we got this. And then we simply solve that at the mark. Okay. And there's a detail of adding the -6 and the -20/7. Just a simple common denominator. And we get the same, we eventually got over here after I got done with correcting my error. Okay. So that's that. Be able to do this. It's going to be in the test. Okay. So the test will be in the testing center. Very hopefully this afternoon. One of the things I need to do this afternoon. Okay. If it's not here this afternoon, though, it'll be here. Okay. And you have officially till next Friday to do it. But if you don't get it done until before class, takes a week from Tuesday after break, 2 weeks from whatever that is, week from Tuesday. No, that would be doing a break 2 weeks from Tuesday. Okay. Okay. I'll accept it up to that point. Okay. Otherwise, it's an opportunity to make a good score because this test is really predictable. One thing I tell people is you need to practice and prepare. As good as some of the work I've seen is in this class, some people, I just need a quick review to make sure you got everything. Some people need a little more work in order to optimize what they do, okay? So make sure you practice these things. You're invited to send me a copy. Okay? And hopefully, during break, check my email, at least every couple of days during break, get back to me. Okay? I get bored. A lot of construction around the house, maybe I even get tired. Usually not. But I should be able to get back to one caveat, probably not going to be on campus that much. And there's a glitch with our system where I can't access the networks, which means I can't download it. If I can't download it, I can't do what I would like to be able to do. So there might be more than like a delay or something like that. And usually I get it, I'll get it back to you at least one of them. And if I've got to come to campus to do it, it might be really typical. Not at you. Susan. Okay, I'm gonna try to get that straight for next week. Because it really hampers what I can do. Anyway, that'll be the test. If you want another practice test, I can easily run. Okay. Once I have it set up, I'll probably send you another practice test that includes this. Now, I'm also going to include a problem on absolute values. Okay. Because I'm going to do that today. It'll be due and absolute value functions. It is kind of easy. So I'll probably put a problem on a test and label it as optional. Optional means go ahead and try it. Okay. If it doesn't help your grade, I just ignore it. If it does help your grade, then I aggregate it. And there might be another problem or two in the option. Okay. So be prepared to do everything. All right. And if you got questions, let me know, especially next week. Okay, next thing we want to do is talk about absolute value. And unfortunately, I think I'm short of voice space, so give me a second here. Okay. This function, f of x of 2, absolute value of x minus 12 plus 3. And let's call that f of x, but I want to call that g of x. And the form a f of x minus 8 plus k. In this whole transformation scheme in the notation, a f of x minus 8 plus k. Something you gotta be up on. It's gonna appear in the test, you can see. Okay. Take a minute at most two. And write down what A is, what H is, what K is, and what formula for f of x is. And write them prominently, circle, so I can see quickly. But I'll hold the map to clarify this for you, because it will. Okay. A equals 2, H equals 4, because your formula is f of x minus 8. You have x minus 4. If h was minus 4, you would have x plus 4. Okay? A equals 3. Some people told me that h and k were both negative. Okay? So don't tell me that anymore. Fix that. Make sure you understand it. Go back to what we did at the very beginning of the semester with constructing these functions in rectangles and confirming that the function matches what you get in the rectangle. The AF of x minus h plus k form matches your construction. Okay? Because that's absolutely going to be on the test, or at least one problem, maybe on 3. Okay? Maybe on 4, because if I throw an absolute value, then again, it's likely to appear. I probably won't include it 4 times. I might include a 3. You figure out which function that I'm not fans. It'll be different for everybody because everybody gets a little different test. Okay. So anyhow, what's f of x? Well, f of x is the absolute value of x. Why? So a f of x would be 8 times the absolute value of x, right? h, x becomes x minus h. So this x becomes x minus h. A f of x minus h plus k equals a times the absolute value of x minus h plus a. It must be solved. This is exactly what the function notation tells you is the meaning of f of x minus h plus k. Okay? So you have to understand all of that. Then g of x equals this. Now we know that this is a vertical stretch by factor a, right? And maybe you got a reflection if a happens to be negative. In this case, it isn't. Okay. And then you horizontally shifted h units, not negative h units, h units, h being 4, not negative. Then you vertically shifted k units, which is 3 units. So for constructing this thing, you have the absolute value. I'm going to do that just in a rectangle. Okay. And I'm going to do it in a rectangle. That being the origin then. Now, I label my report horizontal and vertical lines. I could subdivide this a little bit and get a point here and here. But right there is my absolute value function, and you should be able to fill in the details. Okay? Very simple. I mean, for example, the absolute value of 2 is 2. The absolute value of negative 2 is 2, right? Absolute value of 0 is 0. So have these points. Then you do the vertical stretch. What happens if you multiply the absolute value of x by a? That increases all your y, or changes all your y coordinates, doubles all your y coordinates. If a is 2, right? If a is 3, it would triple them. If a is 0.78, well, it multiplies them by 0.78, right? So if we multiply all the y coordinates by 2, you see that the y equals 2 and y equals negative 2 lines become y equals 4 and y equals negative 4. Our origin is still in the middle. So now our graph is like this. If this was to the same scale this is, it would be twice as steep. Okay. Then we take the same picture, we shift it so that the origin moves 4 units horizontally and 3 units vertically, right? So our final picture. I'm gonna let myself a little room to the right here. Gotta be kind of proud of it. Picture's gonna look exactly like this one. I made my rectangle a little bit narrow. So I haven't constructed it perfectly. But here, y equals what? Tell me with your fingers. Now y equals 0 here and here, but we've now shifted horizontally 4 units and vertically 3 units, right? So if I shift horizontally 4 units and vertically 3 units, what's y gonna be? It was 0, and we add 3 to that, we get y equals 3. You understand that? If not, you probably need to go back to the very beginning, smash, reduce, review. Okay? Because that's fundamental. It's the base of 80% of the course. Okay? So we want to make sure we've got that. And it's not difficult. You might have to refresh your memory. Maybe it's already refreshed. Okay? We need, this is a vertical shift. Okay? We've added it to the y value that we get here. Okay? So all the y values become regraded. So the y value at the red dot becomes, right here it's 0, and y is 0, x is 0. Right here, y is 3. What's x? Mommy's telling me 4. Some of you have tired hands, so you can pull that off. It's okay. Make sure you understand it. Okay? Understand the whole picture of transformations. This is it. Yeah, this is most of it. There's some details. Now, we have this line and this line, right? Can you show me with your fingers what's the x value here? See a couple of you with 6 fingers on. Okay. Some of you with 1 hand. See. Yeah, some people do get more than 6 fingers. No, no, trust me. Walk around. 6. Okay. To be convenient, works about. Okay, what did we do? We've shifted everything 4 units to the right. Well, what's going to happen to the x equals 2 line if we go 4 units to the right? Right? By 4 units, so x equals 6. And over here, when x is -2, I think somebody showed me a -2. What are you thinking about this? That was good. Okay. And then here, we'll really have room to. What's y equal up here at the top? Took this thing and shifted it 3 units up. Y was equal to 4 here, so y must be 7. -4 here, we shift up 3 units, that gets us to -1. If there's a picture of the g of x function. So this is graph of this function. Now, open math is going to ask you to, it's probably going to give you the function and ask you to figure out what the formula is. Okay. So I'm going to have time. Only got 2 minutes left. Anyhow, there are other aspects of absolute value function that I'll remind you of as you did it with absolute value equations. For sure. Just in case. Suppose we have this inequality. Well, we can subtract 3. Sides, we get 2 times the absolute value of 4 less than 3. Then we divide by 2, which gives us absolute value of x minus 4 less than 3 halves. So x minus 4 has to be less than 3 halves. This is greater than 3 halves, its absolute value wouldn't be less than 3 halves, right? And x minus 4 has to be greater than negative 3 halves. Like if x minus 4 was negative 10, its absolute value would be 10, which isn't less than 3 halves. Okay. So that x, well, we have 4. Here we get x less than 11 halves. And here we get x greater than 5 halves. Graph, we have 5 halves here, 11 halves here. Turned out that 4 is right in the middle of that. Eight's right in the middle of that. Other than that, both of them. That's because of the 2. Anyhow, our graph then is everything to the left of 11 halves, but it also has to be to the right of 5 halves. So goes to there. That's familiar? We done that? Is that in here a couple of weeks ago? Okay, back when we did absolute value for the college. So make sure you can do that because that does appear. It's a fairly short assignment, but make sure you've got it because once you get it down, it reinforces it. You will need to know about transformation. Okay. So you're going to be working through transformations. And it's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy way to get full credit for the problem. Remember, the problem will be optional. But you should be able to nail that well before you gotta take the test. Okay. Okay, good. Well, have a good weekend. Let me know if you have questions. Okay. What I have on the board is, I think, yeah, there it is. It's, the 7-step thing that I talked about. I hope that everything's been visible at the bottom of the screen. Zoom doesn't show me. Right. Oh, I'll show. So anyhow, there's 7 steps. Okay. And then 8th step, which is check. 4, find an equation. Get down if you need to. And I strongly recommend you follow it and follow its more in detail. Right here. Stuff I did with the absolute value function. So right there is the inequality. Right here is structure based on. I think everything important was visible. It almost looks like the camera decided to shift some type, some. And then there's the graphing of that one function. I might have an important. Okay, well, hopefully everything important on it, going videos. And if not, I apologize for the camera and for the fact that I wasn't watching it as closely as I should have.